hotbed of their controversy and conflict. And since beginning I thought that after the fall of Saddam Hussein, which was ruled by a minority Sunni government by over majority Shia, Syria was the strategic compensation of the loss of Iraq to the Sunni monarchies, because situation totally differed. What existed in Iraq was totally different in Syria. Syria is ruled by minority or majority Sunni. So they wanted to create a counter that starting from the United Nations resolution to the other developments, we find that USA and Russia are at loggerhead. Okay. And in there, this shows that from regional to global, from global to regional, politics are intervening in Syrian issues, and this is not letting Syria to be settled at a on a negotiating table. And the current development, the fall of Al-Qassar, disturbance in Turkey, election in Iran, and confusion in Saudi Arabia, if it's there, then I perceive that in the coming 2 to 3 months there is nothing going to happen in Syria, because no party is ready to sit on the table, because on the other hand, Assad government has, after Al-Qassar, Assad government has feel empowered. So who is going to sit on? This is the
okay. So what you're saying is basically a proxy war going on between Iran and Sunni Arab rivals, Iran and the US, and as you said, US and Russia too.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Jagannathan, you wanted to come in here?
No, I just go for your questions. The one point I would like to add what the Alok said, how the regime survived, though it is a minority, is that how continue to survive, because as the one point it trying to portray it's a secular kind of giving space to address give spaces for the other minority groups like Druze and Armenians and the Christian Orthodox, and also if you look at the Assad president's government.
Program. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The discussion continues on the other side. Welcome back to Public Forum. We are discussing the conflict in Syria. You wanted to comment on the chemical weapons?
I would like to comment on the chemical weapons. If you look at the Syria is the third largest stockpile of chemical weapons in the world, and it has 1,000 tons of chemical weapons like sarin gas, Agent 15, which is very harmful, very lethal, and it's very subtle, rational and very understandable, which is that these weapons should not fall into, and these weapons or these chemical weapons are stored in more than 50 cities on villages bordering the Golan Heights and the Lebanese border. So their concern is that it should not fall, given the Hezbollah's growing strength in the Lebanon, and also its link with the Iranians, Iran. And this weapon should not fall into the Hezbollah, which may use it in in Palestinians, which against Israel. So that is the crux of the things. So that's that the U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has pointed out when the allegations was made by the UK and France, things that there are reports, are also intelligence report. Even the CIA made it clear that there are evidence that the chemical weapons has been used. Agent 15 has been used, but as Alok pointed out, that nobody knows who has used it. But the immediate after the CIA announced that there is evidence, the White House, especially the Obama administration from the White House, issued a statement that this is not sufficient, because they don't want to step in, they don't want to do the mistakes where they have done it in Iraq under the WMD. Yeah, they're looking for the search for the WMD. So that's where he drawn the red lines.
Okay. Right. Captain Bansal, how do you look at the role of the US here? Because they've made it clear that they don't want to put boots on the ground, but they have also said that they intend to help the opposition. And on the one side, they are convening peace talks in Geneva. On the other side, we see Senator McCain walking into Syria, meeting
bulk of the forces, the bulk of the troops, the bulk of the muscle that the opposition has comes from elements which are closely aligned with Salafists.
Right.
Now, of late, Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Jawahiri's statement came out just a few days back, exhorting people to join hands against the Syrian regime. Now, this makes US extremely careful, because it realizes that if the regime falls, you will have a regime which will eventually draw its main sustenance from elements which are aligned with Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And do you want a regime which is actually intractably hostile to you coming to power in Syria? Because if supposing an Al-Qaeda allied regime comes in Syria, then you have a major, ever since Erdogan government came in Turkey, he has a neo-Ottoman Empire sort of an agenda. See, for decades, Turkey had no role in the Middle East.
Right.
It had been actually, but offload, he sees himself in the, probably in the form that he probably feels that he's a successor to the Ottoman Empire. He feels he has a legitimate right to intervene inside. And if you see, after the initial push that was given by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, bulk of the support for rebels have actually come from Turkey.
Okay.
And as a result, the main rebel hold.
And now with the turmoil in Turkey, things could actually change. On that note, it's time for us to take a break in the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the final segment of the show where we discuss the road ahead for Syria. To Public Forum, with the violence in Syria hitting a new crisis point, we discuss the situation there. And I'll continue with you. The arms embargo that has been lifted by the EU now, which means EU countries will be free to supply arms to rebels on the ground. Will it change the situation now? Because you said earlier that tables have been turned in favor of the regime.
Look, when they were lifting the arms embargo, they said many questioned their move. So, and the counter thing that given by Russia is has proved a stabilizing force in military things. To my understanding, what I find that nobody is in position to manage and control the Syrian crisis, while the Assad regime is gradually gaining its lost territories and power. And this shows the re-emergence of the Assad allies in the region, and including Iran, Hezbollah, Shia Crescent, whatever you can call it. Because demographically, 61% of the total population in the Gulf is Shia. So 40% population is always under the pressure of majority population. But I don't think that division is so deep and severe. It has been propagated. Initially, I was thinking that this Shia-Sunni division is an elite apprehension, because if democracy comes, who will lose the power? Certainly the elites. What happened to Indian partition? Who demanded the partition? Those who were the landlords, zamindars, elites, they demanded the partition and they went to Pakistan. All the commoners were staying here in India. So the same will happen in there. The elite will lose their power, prestige, position. And that's why they are fanfaring the things just to maintain the status quo.